All right. First thing I want you to do, if you haven't noticed already, thank you for hushing, thank you. I want you to cross off activity 4-6. We're not covering that one, so you can go ahead and just cross it off. Activity 4-7 was when we had read the short story Open Window, and we were analyzing comic character. After we read it, you folks completed that green half-slip analysis of why the story had a comic character and whether it was high or low comedy. So how is reading that story, practicing a written analysis, preparing you to write your essay where you analyze a humorous text? Once your purpose statement is done, you can flip to the back side so you can catalog how activity 4-7 practice the concepts that your essay will be graded on. 4-7 carried a lot of weight, just like activity 4-5. 4-7 covered 7 out of the 9 concepts that your essay will be graded on. 4-7 helped you practice concepts 1 through 6 and concept 8. Again, 4-7 had you practice concepts 1 through 6 and concept 8. Once you've got activity 4-7 cataloged, go ahead and put that bookmark away and open up your Springboard to page 267. Okay, if you haven't already, go ahead and just use the 2 learning targets. And if you've got a highlighter, you'll want to use it with our activity today. Now, even though the activity is going to take us 2 days to complete, we're going to be practicing both learning targets for both days. So you folks will be identifying comic situations, and you're going to be analyzing the comic situation with a group. First thing I'm going to have you do is I want you to actually mark or highlight the definition of irony. So these are the key ideas behind it. Now, your in asked you today, what is irony? So if you're struggling with developing your own definition, you can absolutely use the one that Springboard provides you. Now, the whole idea behind irony is that a situation or event unfolds in a way that was completely unexpected. So what we see as normal or as a generic situation or event, irony kind of flips it upside down. All right, going back to the activity itself, I'm going to have you focus in on the comic situation section, and you're going to be highlighting the 3 occurrences of a comic situation. So they're popping up right now. Go ahead and highlight those in your text. A comic situation can happen first if the event is completely unlikely. Second, you're going to have a comic situation when someone is a victim, and we have a humorous response. So the idea of someone falling to a prank, and it makes us have that laughter or that chuckle, that would be considered a comic situation. And lastly, it's going to occur with irony. So anytime an event unfolds in a way that was not expected, that's also going to be considered the comic situation. All right, once you have these markings done, we're actually going to skip that chart that's at the bottom of page 267. That's something we're going to come back to on Monday. So for now, what I want you to do is go ahead and turn to page 268. We're skipping step 3, and instead we're moving right over to step 4. And there's a literary term of dialect. You may or may not have noticed on the screen that we highlighted some key info about it. I want you to go ahead and copy those marks. Now, the piece that we're going to be reading today, it is heavily riddled with deep South dialect from about the 1890s. So dialect is kind of broken into 2 different ideas. Dialect is the way that we sound when we speak, but it's also the word choice that we use. Dialect changes over time. It changes based on region as well. So I'm sure you folks can think of your basic, generic Southern accent. Think about how it sounds. There's a lot of twang to it. There's almost a drawl in the way that words are said, where it takes a while for the person to speak. That's a Southern dialect. Okay, now I want you to think about dialect on the East Coast. Someone from New York, someone from New Jersey. The way that they speak is a lot different as well. Now, even all of us in this room, we have a specific dialect. If we were to go transfer ourselves into Europe, anyone who's European would stare at us, point at us, and go, "You're American." That's our dialect. That's the way that we sound. We sound different from other folks. But it's not only just the way that we sound, it's the words, too. I think the group that has the most interesting dialect, teenagers. Honest to goodness, the Urban Dictionary was made because of the words that you guys came up with. No joke. So the whole idea behind dialect, I think it's funny. Every year, or every 2 years, I should say, a new term comes up in your vernacular as teenagers that I'm like, Urban Dictionary, what is this? The first time I heard ratchet, it's like, what is this? Is this supposed to mean something that's good or bad? I have no idea. Is this PG? Should they not be saying this? I don't know. So I had the Urban Dictionary that, and I had to make sure it was chill. But the same thing with, I want to say probably 5 years ago, the head teenage dialect was to say something was sick. I'm like, well, what is that? Is sick cool? Is it bad? What does this mean? You know, just having to figure this stuff out. Take it even further back. You got the words like, "Got where my bling bling," and you're like, what is this? This is all kinds of dialects that, I love it, getting you guys to laugh. It's this weird dialect that, if we don't know it, we don't get it, and we're lost. The piece that you're reading today, like I mentioned, it comes from Mark Twain. It's an excerpt from one of his all-time great stories, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. We're going to be reading a chapter from that story, but we have to make sure that we actually understand what's being said, because again, the dialect we're talking really deep south, 1890s. So I'm going to have a couple of items pointed out to you. First thing, what I want you to do is I actually want you to look at page 269. I want you to find where it says chunk 3, it's a blue heading. Then I want you to find paragraph 5 and take a look at this dialect and see if you can't figure out what this character is trying to say. Take a moment and look through it. I just testing it a bit. And 1. All right, so you have the opportunity to take a look at the curious dialect right there. All right. Now, the idea there is this character, we got our deep southern boy. This is Jim, character Jim. Something else you need to know about Jim. Jim is a young black boy. He's a young African-American boy in the deep south. So the way that he talks, it's almost in our realm and our day and time, it seems racist. It seems like they're trying to make a stereotypical kid happen here. So when you see some of the words pop up too, if you take a look at paragraph 2, a couple of sentences up, you're going to hear and see the way that groups of people are described. You're going to go, oh, that's so not PC. It's so not politically correct. And that's true for our time. But you got to remember, this was written back in a time where this was the dialect. This was normal. So what you folks are going to be doing, you're going to be reading through this chapter, and I'm going to have you do that without me, an initial reading. So if you take a look at the screen in the blue box, you're going to read with a partner, If you want to work with a group of 3, that's cool. If you go a lot bigger, it might get difficult. But what you and the group want to do is take every chunk one at a time. You're breaking the story down into 6 parts. I want you to read each chunk aloud, actually practice speaking with this dialect. And after each chunk, I want you to pause and write in the My Notes column, what do you think actually happened? Now, I'm going to give you a time frame to work your way through this piece. Once the time is up, I'll go back and give you a quick synopsis of each chunk in case something in terms of the dialect you are not able to transpire and understand. Okay? So I'm going to give you folks, let's say, 13 minutes to get through each chunk with a partner or a small group and see if you can't determine what exactly happened with this dialect. All right, go ahead and begin.